Islam, Morris. Islam. Let's rise. Five on the left, two on the right. Allah, the Father of the universe.
Allah, the Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth.
Truth.
Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
His holy prophet.
His holy prophet.
Noble Juali.
Noble Garvey.
Islam.
Islam.
Peace, Morris. Prophet warns all Muslims, governors, ordered to read proclamation at each meeting. I hereby inform all members that they must end all radical agitating speeches while at work in their homes or on the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. All true Moors will and must obey the laws laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I, the prophet, found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the prophet Noble Juali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet, therefore, is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting their prophet and the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. Noble Juali. Islam. To be proclaimed at every meeting. Islam. I am glad to know that I have a few faithful Moors among you all, and I desire for them to know the truth and the divine truth. There is a host of jealousy about me and the movement now by the same people of our side of the nation that claim that it was only a joke and unreal. But now, since they have found out from the government officials and the nations of the earth that this is the only sole foundation that all Asiatics must depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, they are working every scheme that they can to disqualify me so they may take charge of the situation. I have notified all these things to you long ago in the past. It is through the faithful Moors that attribute to the movement and uplifting funds. The ones that paid their divine respect to me and the movement will be remembered. That is why I am calling upon all faithful Moors to increase their faithfulness to me, your prophet, and your divine Moorish movement. I need finance and I need it badly. Never before have I needed finance so badly as I do at present, so I can shove aside the discord that is facing the nation. It all comes through jealousy because of my fame and nobility. The nations of the world will not recognize the movement without I, the prophet, being head. It has been proven by my works which I have performed in the past few years. Prophet Noble Juali. To the members of the Moor Science Temple of America. Islam. This is the instruction from your Prophet Noble Juali. Be faithful unto your forefathers' divine and national creed that you would be blessed for your good deeds that you sow in the flesh. Allah is the one that judges the world, and his judgment is now on, but the weak can comprehend it not. The end of time is drawing near, so says Allah to his divine prophet, I Noble Juali. And that's why many hearts have been turned to stone. Many have eyes to see, but cannot see, ears to hear, but cannot hear, lest they would be confounded of their sins. These are trying hours now, dear Moors, and every evil spirit is moving, and they are trying every weak mind to overthrow and drag out the true foundation that has been laid, and to cause confusion in the minds of the ones that do believe. But if you have the true love of Allah and the spirit of your forefathers, you fear not what you hear or see, but would sacrifice the utmost of your very life to protect your movement and your prophet. Watch your enemies, dear Moors. Your enemies are the ones that speak against your prophet and ridicule him to the very lowest, and the ones that speak against your divine and national principles of your temples. Act accordingly, and Allah would bless you for your good work. Peace, your divine prophet, Noble Juali. Islam. So we're just gonna go to the Moorish paradigm today, the master issue number 13, the Moorish paradigm, because we had the Muslims from the mosque in here the past couple weeks. They had came in, they had questions or whatever like that, and it was just conversation, So there was some Quran verses that stuck out while I was going through that, and just that in relation to Noble Jew Ali and a background of the Muslim Moorish relationships as far as Noble Jew Ali and what was presented with the Moorish paradigm with Brother Hakeem Bey. This is page 4. A prophet from among us. A question was asked March 17th in an editorial in the Champion magazine, so-called Negro publication. The editorial said, "The Negro is crying for Muhammad to come forth and give him the Quran of economic and intellectual warfare. Where is he? This was the prayer of our people, and Allah responded by sending us someone, a king of the East and West, a Muhammad prophet, who would bring us a Quran of economic and intellectual warfare. That one sent to us was none other than Prophet Noble Jew Ali." The elder said the prophet founded the first temple in Newark, New Jersey in 1913. It was during this time between 1913 and 1916, and just prior, that the prophet was said to have learned Islam and the truth of our Moorish heritage. It was also during this time that he was said to have been put through the test of prophethood and have received the title Ali. During this time, he was recognized as the prophet and the one representing our people among the nations of the world. In 1916, he founded the Moorish Divine and National Movement. Between 1916 and 1919, he stayed with the original Canaanite temple. But a foreign Islamic teacher came in and began to discredit the prophet as not teaching true Islam and for not teaching Arabic. This struggle ultimately divided the membership, and the prophet went to New York City to link up with Marcus Garvey and the UNIA movement. Marcus Garvey is said to be the John the Baptist of the Prophet Noble Jew Ali. He came to prepare the descendants of Amexem, original name of Africa, for the prophet's coming. Around the circles of the Garvey movement, the prophet was known as the Prince and Professor Drew the Egyptian adept. He began to have an influence on Garvey's UNIA movement, Hebrew movements, and other movements among our people. His influence in the UNIA can be seen in the quotes below. Garvey once said, "Muhammad suffered many defeats at certain times," he said, "but Muhammad stuck to his faith and ultimately triumphed, and Mohammedanism was given to the world. And as Muhammad did in the religious world, so in the political arena, we have had men who have paid the price for leading the people toward the great light of liberty." Arnold Josiah Ford, The Universal Ethiopian Hymnal. Arnold Josiah Ford, the musical director of the UNIA, utilized the symbols of Islam in several of his musical compositions for the organization. Allahu Akbar was the title of one of his hymns. Other pieces made similar references. "May our rights proclaim, in that most sacred name, Allah, one God, one aim, one destiny." Many people are familiar with the phrase "one God, one aim, one destiny," but very few know that it is preceded with "May our rights proclaim, in that most sacred name, Allah, Father of all creation, Allah omnipotent, supreme over every nation, God bless our president, Marcus Garvey. From murderous Cain, whose vengeful mood, a doctrine cursed preferred to spill or drink his brother's blood when love is in Allah's word. As leader of the Black Jewish movement in the 1920s, Ford was particularly sensitive to the issue of the signification and alternative religious identities in the UNIA. The prophecies of the Mahdi. And before we go there, so as we know with all the different organizations that were around in the 1920s, the affiliation with Noble Drew Ali is referenced in all these different people's doctrines. If they're talking about Allah, if they're talking about Islam, if they're making certain reference to certain things, it's directly because of the Moorish influence that was around at that time. Hebrew Moors are around. Dus Muhammad Ali, he's not even from here, he's from somewhere else. The Ahmadiyya movement, which is, Pakistanis that came and said they got something for the people here, right? There was so much influence in Islam and esoteric teachings that everybody had something in their Negro, Black, whatever organization, right? The prophecies of the Mahdi. Muhammad al-Khatam al-Anibiyah has said, the sun will rise from the place of its setting. I heard the messenger of Allah say, the first of the signs that will come out will be the rising of the sun in the place of its setting, and the coming out of the beast to the people. At forenoon, in whichever of these two comes to pass before its companion, the other will be near its footsteps. Thus, as Muslims in the East are even to this day awaiting the Mahdi, little do they realize that he has already come. He has come from a rejected and despised people who they would never have thought would produce their long-awaited Mahdi. The same way the Arabs were seen when the Prophet Muhammad came from among them, thus we are now the portion of the Asiatic family from whom the last prophet has come. This is the reason why the Arabs and many of the current Muslims of the East have and will oppose us as we rise. It is in the very prophecies of which they themselves hold in their hands. This was opposition. This opposition was actually fulfilled by a Muslim named Sati Majid, who was outraged by the Prophet bringing a new Quran. He wrote the Prophet demanding that he change the name and burn the book. He even tried to get the United States government involved, but the government did not get involved and told Sati Majid to go to the men of knowledge and religion to seek redress. He then went to the Muslim scholars in Egypt to get them to pronounce a fatwa against Prophet Noble Drew Ali, which they did. They also, however, spoke against Sati Majid and his qualifications. It was said in the prophecies that the Muslims in the East have, it is said that in the prophecies that the Muslims in the East have, that the Prophet will invite to a new mission, a new tradition, a new method, yet will rebel against that which they themselves know. Truly blessed are we, the strangers. There is no one else who fulfilled all these prophecies other than Noble Drew Ali. The Prophet did bring us a Quran, as our people requested in the magazine article. The Negro is crying out for a Muhammad to come forth and give him the Quran of economic and intellectual warfare. He fulfilled the Islamic prophecies concerning the Mahdi, as seen in above quotes, and he's fulfilled the Christian prophecies found in the book of Revelations. Notice the circle 7 seal on the Quran. Right, Moorish Paradigm, Master Issue number 13. So there was definitely opposition then with regard to Noble Drew Ali and his prophecy and his prophethood. Now, when I went through some of the Quran chapters, or their Quran chapters, there were some things that stood out that goes with everything that we're saying as far as our thing, to show that there should be no separation. There's things that I would even question. If they're saying this is where it's at, there's certain things in there like, well, I don't know if I'm going to go with that as being, you know what I mean? God said that. There's no way God said that, right? And if anything comes to mind as we're reading some of these, you can speak up on it. So this is Al-Baqarah 256. There shall be no compulsion in religion. True guidance has become distinct from error. But whoever refuses to be led by Satan and believes in God has grasped the strong handhold and will ever break. God is all hearing and all knowing. God is the patron of the faithful. He leads them from darkness to light. As for those who deny the truth, their supporter is Satan, who brings them out of light into darkness. They are the heirs of the fire, and there they will remain forever. Peace, more. Islam, I'm good. That's good. All right. God is the patron of the faithful. He leads them from darkness to light. And we have in our literature with Noble Drew Ali making reference to him bringing us from darkness into the marvelous light based on the information that he presented. So if their prophet is making, if their Quran is making reference to direct words that Noble Drew Ali made reference to, right? And their context is that it's God, and in our context, it's Noble Drew Ali. Noble Drew Ali is letting us know by himself being that Allah and man are the same thing. Unlike what they're trying to tell you, that you got something out there. There's something out there that we're going to, either you're it or you're probably caught up in where you're not supposed to be caught up in. Which is why when we notice that in our engagements with them, that they don't have any discrepancies in the lessons, because everything is the same. Their issue is that how come we have a prophet and how come we have a Quran and it's not the one that they got? And that their thing is where it's at. Their book is where, you know what I mean, you're going to get the lessons. Well, our book's making reference to what our prophet said, or their book is making reference to what our prophet said, right? And when we made reference to them again with our authority, and it's saying that we derive our authority from the Quran of Muhammad, and they're saying, well, where's everybody else in our authority? Not even recognizing what that document even is. With him claiming the authority is coming from the Quran of Muhammad, and that the religion that the Moors have, the old time religion, is Islamism, which is political position. It's not a religious one. So all the different ways to look at what Noble Drew Ali brought. There's so many different angles to look at it from, right? But the foundation, the nucleus of what it is dealing with nationhood and national standards and principles and divine law and things that are outside of or less referenced when they start talking about religion and stuff like that, because they hardly bring up national things when they bring up. They usually go to God and these things. So that was Al-Baqarah 256, dealing with the God leading the faithful from darkness to the light, and then that being a direct reference to Noble Drew Ali. The other thing that I realized in this thing is that, and I don't know if it's set up like that, but one of the other things was the whole thing with the belief that all they talk about is believing about stuff. Do you believe this? Do you believe something? Do you believe that we have to believe that the whatever? And being in the organized religious context, we have to see that that's part of the brainwash, keeping the people at that level, at the belief level, that they don't see for themselves that they're one with Allah, which again is where which is good that they got to take our Quran so they could see where we're coming from. When we say Muslim, Islam, Allah, that we're not dogmatic, right? We're metaphysical, we're esoteric, we're way beyond where the individuals are. And again, when they're talking about God being the patron and the faithful and leading them to the darkness and the light, that's metaphysics. That's not God versus the devil like how they're looking at it. Right? There was a few that were highlights. So that was one. Okay, this is Al-Nal 36. We raised among every people a messenger who enjoined worship God alone and shun the evil one. Then among them were some whom God guided, and among them were others who became deserving of ruin. So travel across the earth and observe what the end of those who rejected the messengers. Though you, prophet, may be eager to guide them, God does not guide those whom he lets go astray because of their refusal to give a positive response to the truth. They will have no supporters. They swear their strongest oaths by God that God will never raise the dead to life. Nonetheless, it is a promise truly binding on him, even though most people do not realize it. This is so that he may make clear to them that they have differed about and so that those who are bent on denying the truth may realize that they were lying. When we will something to happen, all we say is be, and it is. All that's metaphysical. All that's esoteric. That's not dogmatic. If we go in the metaphysical Bible dictionary, even though this is Quran, we still use metaphysical Bible dictionary. And we go look up God and earth, messengers, prophet, truth. You're going to have a whole different version of what this is, which is why, again, you would realize that Muhammad is really the first Sufi of Islam. If they're claiming he's prophet and he's whatever, then he's not dogmatic then. If he's the founder of it, he's definitely not dogmatic. He's definitely not 5 times a day pray and all that, and that's it. Right? There's more divine teachings there. When we will something, they're not talking about praying, pray to have something. Because that's what they push, that this is just about pray. Just pray and then you be saved and get your whatever you're supposed to get because you did it your 5 times and you did all the different rituals. But if this is talking about willing something to happen and all you have to say is be and then it happens, then that's affirmation. And all through this, there's this thing of realizing how off people are when they claim these things, and why it was that Drew Ali said even our religion is something that they never heard of. So you tell people Islamism and they're looking at you like they don't know what that is. You know, when it could be referenced. Hud, verse 19. Such as those who turn others away from the path of God and seek to make it appear crooked. These are the ones who deny the hereafter. They can never frustrate God on earth, nor have they any protectors besides God. They will be subjected to double punishment, for they could neither hear nor see. It is such as these who have ruined their souls, and that which they fabricated shall fail them. In the hereafter, it is they who shall be the greatest losers. Those who have believed and done good deeds and humbled themselves before their Lord are destined for paradise, and they will live in it forever. These two groups are like the blind and the deaf as compared to those who can see and hear. Can the two be equal? Will you not then understand? We sent Noah to his people. He said, I have come to you with a clear warning. Worship none but God. I fear lest punishment befall you on a woeful day. The leaders of his people who refuse the acknowledgement of truth, we regard you only as human beings like ourselves. We do not see that anyone follows you, but the lowliest of us, those of immature judgment. We see no superior merit in you. In fact, we believe you are a liar. He said, O my people, tell me, if I have a clear evidence of my Lord and he has favored me with the grace from himself, which you have been unable to recognize, can we force it on you against your will? And there's the will again. O my people, I do not ask you for any money for this. My reward comes only from God. I will not drive away those who believe. They shall surely meet their Lord. Yet I see that you are a people who act out of ignorance. My people who would support me against God if I were to drive them off. Will you not take heed? I do not say to you that I possess God's treasures, or that I have knowledge of the unseen, or that I am an angel. Nor do I say concerning those upon whom you look with contempt that God will not bestow any good upon them. God knows best what is in their hearts. If I did, I would certainly be one with the wrongdoers. And then he goes through that, and we have all the lessons with Jesus, go into different places, speaking with the cutthroats, speaking with the murderers, speaking with the pimps and the whores and the whatever, and everybody looking at him, hey, why are you doing that or whatever? You shouldn't be talking to them. Those people are people of sin. And then he's saying, hey, what do you mean they're people of sin? They're creatures of the Creator too. You know? Everything. And I know that these specific ones saying that they're going to take the Quran, if they read it, there's no way that they're coming back here with some trying to convince us about some stuff that they got at masjids and all that. If they're ready. If they're ready. Right. Now, raised among every people, now 36. We raised among every people a messenger who enjoined, worship God alone, and shun the evil one. Then among them were some whom God guided, and among them were others who became deserving of ruin. So travel across the earth and observe what was the end of those who rejected the messengers. Right? So their book telling them that a prophet, a messenger, is raised among every people. So they can't claim that their one is the one or the last one. Because a prophet was raised among every people. Every people has somebody who came to save them from the oppressive regime that was claiming to be government over them. Everybody. Right? Every nation had that. Al-Hajj 38. God will surely defend the believers. God does not love the perfidious and the ungrateful. Permission to fight is granted to those who are attacked because they have been wronged. God indeed has the power to help them. They are those who have been driven out of their homes unjustly, only because they said, our Lord is God. If God did not repel the aggression of some people by means of others, cloisters and churches and synagogues and mosques wherein the name of God is much invoked would surely be destroyed. God will surely help him who helps his cause. God is indeed powerful and mighty. They are those who, if we establish them in the land, would say their prayers regularly and pay the zakat and enjoin good and forbid evil. The final outcome of all affairs rests with God. If your opponents deny you, remember that before them, the people of Noah and the tribes of Ad and Thamud denied their messengers likewise. So did the people of Abraham and the people of Lot, and the inhabitants of Midian also charged their prophets with falsehood. Moses was also rejected. I gave respite to those who denied the truth, but then I seized them. Consider then how terrible my repudiation of them was. Right? So same thing that we know that's going on right now. And the inhabitants of Midian also charged their prophets with falsehood. Same thing that we're dealing with right now. People talking crazy about Noble Drew Ali, he's not who he is and all that. You know, writing stuff, books, dissertations, whatever, just picking stuff from anywhere that says Noble Drew Ali, not going to more sources to get what they say, right? Getting to the aspect of the readings every meeting, the same thing. The people who are going against what was presented by the messenger, by the prophet Noble Drew Ali, and making it a duty, to have their position. This one here got me. Al Azab. This was God's way with those who went before him, and the command of God is a decree determined. Those who conveyed God's message and feared him, and feared none but God. God suffices as a reckoner. Muhammad is not the father of any of your men, but is God's messenger and the seal of the prophets. God has knowledge of all things. Now, we just read before that messenger is sent to everybody. And then we're reading here that Muhammad is not the father of any of your men, but is God's messenger and the seal of the prophets. So either messengers and prophets are the same, or Muhammad is not the prophet, he's just a messenger. And if he's just a messenger, then where'd all this stuff that he's a prophet and all that come from? Who fabricated his story to say that he was a prophet when he was really just a messenger? Because it says right here, Muhammad is not the father of any of your men, but is God's messenger and the seal of the prophets.
What does it mean by when it says the seal?
That's another one. Let's check the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary and see what.
When I hear about seal, it sounds authentic.
Yeah.
Authenticated, like legit. Because you know how they throw out, there's so many prophets out there, He's one of the ones that are sealed and authenticated.
All they're giving me is the animal seal. Like they know. That's all that's coming up. Spirit animals.
You can look it up in the dictionary too, so you can find it. Because you know that.
Nothing.
Even if someone asks a question in the comments, you never put in all cap for like, you said, like, just to clear the air, why a bunch of people need to be saved by someone else? You put quotations saved by someone else.
Yeah. Yeah, because they couldn't save themselves.
They're about to save. People are not getting the point. It's not about the messenger of the prophet saving them. That's just the message. You have to save yourself at the end of the day.
This one here, religion.com. It says distinction between messenger and prophet. Most Islamic commentators agree that messenger, Rasul, refers to those who bring a divine revelation, which includes a new doctrinal system, while a prophet is one who explains ethical teachings on the basis of an existing religion. Every messenger is a prophet, but not every prophet is a messenger. Seal of the Prophets is a title given to Muhammad by a verse in the Quran. Muslims traditionally interpret this verse as meaning that Muhammad was the last prophet. It's interpreted as that means the last prophet. It's interpreted as that.
That's what I was looking at. That's what I was thinking they were looking at it too. Because when you seal something, it's like a seal that was closed. Like once it's sealed, you can't. There's nothing else after.
Mm-hmm. You have seal over there, Rennie?
Yeah, so in the Wax Law 4th edition, seal, an impression upon wax, wait for some other tenacious substance capable of being impressed, and a peculiar sign made to attest in the most formal manner the execution of an instrument. And it says seals, so it serves as an authentication of an instrument and also the badge of specialty. That's what I was saying, like authenticated.
So the seal of the prophet would be that he's authenticated,
Right.
the prophet, not that he's the final one. Yeah. Yeah.
So this is your 20? Yes. So you got sealing?
The ritual of, since we're talking about seals, the ritual of wax seals. Because you said something about wax in there too, right? With the wax, yeah. The ritual use of wax seals. In ritual, physical items are often used as focusing devices. They can help you channel your inner power, make an offering of devotion, or mark a threshold between the seen and unseen. Tools that you can hold in your hands help connect your mind and heart to the work of the Spirit. They enhance your intention by bringing the physical element to join with the mental and emotional. Tools that have an ancient tradition in history hold a special appeal as we connect with lineage of those who went before. The wax seal you have in your hands now is an ancient tool for ritual use. Sealing wax has been used for centuries as a symbol of power, blessing, and authenticity. Throughout history, people have had personal seals, and a document finished with a seal proclaimed without doubt who authorized it. Handheld seals and signet rings were carved with symbols ranging from simple shapes to elaborate designs incorporating mottos and inscriptions. Kings and queens held the seals of their realms. The ultimate symbol of sovereignty and noble purpose is a seal. Using a seal to hold a document closed acts as proof that it has not been tampered with, adding privacy and secrecy. Wax seals can also be added to amulets, talismans, and finalize your magical purpose. The way the wax seal alters its form from solid to molten and back to solid again symbolizes the action of your own creative fire to bring change and transformation, manifesting your vision in a solid reality. Using wax seals the deal, quote unquote. The combination of history symbolism and focused intention makes sealing wax a perfect tool for ritual use. Seals of Wicca, seals of magic, seal of Celtic spirit, Mother's Bounty seal, Crone's Whisperer seal. And they're just all different seals of Wicca. protect the pet seal, release seal, seal of the prophets. So again, a messenger. All messengers are prophets, but not every prophet is a messenger. That was it.
Some other people like to say, Selassie was a prophet, you know?
Yeah, and they put everybody's.
You're a prophet, when you want to say that, but then the messenger thing, right? That's the messenger thing. What was the divine message ultimately?
Yeah. We'll go into some of the Silent Brotherhood, and then after that, we'll just have some open discussion. If anybody has any issues or whatever else. Mysteries of the Silent Brotherhood, chapter 17. Yoshua passes the fourth brotherhood test, takes the fourth degree of Adam. It's should be around page 30. The choicest viands and most delicious wines were on the boards, as maids in gay attire served all with grace and cheerfulness. And men and women richly clad were there, and they were wild with joy. They sipped from cherry cup of mirth. And Joshua watched the happy throng in silence for a time. And then a man in garb of sage came up and said, "Most happy is the man who, like the bee, can gather sweets from every flower. The wise man is the one who seeks for pleasure and can find it everywhere. And at best, man's life on earth is short, and then he dies and goes he knows not where. Then let us eat and drink and dance and sing. Let us get joy of life, for death comes apace. It is but foolishness to spend a life for other men. Behold, I die and lie together in the grave where none can know, and none can show forth gratitude." But Joshua answered not. Upon the tinsel guests in all their rounds of mirth, he gazed in silent thought. And then among the guests he saw a man whose clothes were coarse, who showed in face and hand the lines of toil and want. The giddy throng found pleasure in abusing him. They jostled him against the wall and laughed at his discomfiture. And the poor frail woman came, who carried in her face and form the marks of sin and shame. And without mercy she was spit upon. And the little child with timid ways and hunger came in and asked for just a morsel of their food. But she was driven out uncared for and unloved. And still the merry dance went on. And when the pleasure seekers urged that Joshua join them in the mirth, he said, "How could I seek for pleasure of myself while others are in want? How can I think that while the children cry for bread, while those in haunts of sin call out for sympathy and love, that I can fill myself to full with the good things of life? I tell you, nay, we are all kin, each one a part of the great human heart. I cannot see myself apart from that poor man who you just so scorned and crowded to the wall, nor from the one in female garb who came up with the haunts of vice to ask for sympathy and love, and who by you was so ruthlessly pushed back into her den of sin. Nor from the little child you drive from your midst to suffer in the cold, bleak winds of night. I tell you, men, what you have done to thee, my kindred, you have done, what you have done to thee, my kindred, you have done to me. You have insulted me in your own home. I cannot stay. I will go forth and find that child, that woman, and that man, and give them help until my life's blood has ebbed away. I will call it pleasure when I help the helpless, feed the hungry, clothe the naked, heal the sick, and speak good words of cheer to those unloved, discouraged, and depressed. And this that you call mirth is but a phantom of the night, but flashes of the fire of passion, painting pictures on the walls of time. And while the Logos spoke, the white-robed priest came in and said to him, the council waits for you. Then Joshua stood again before the bar. Again no word was said. The Hierophant placed in his hand a scroll on which was written philanthropy, and Joshua was a victor over selfish self. Islam. Yeah, any thoughts on that? On that verse? On that chapter? Now, how do we put this question out there? If 15, how could I seek for pleasure for myself while others are in want? How can I think that while the children cry for bread, while those in haunts of sin call out for sympathy and love, that I can fill myself to full with the good things of life? So the question I'm putting out is, what could we do to assist getting, whether it's ourselves or our people, to look at this just like this, that if we're not doing for each other as fellow people and everybody being one, then is there worth of doing anything? If there's gonna be people who are gonna constantly, we're looking at for example, with the cost of living thing, and we're talking about with people having their own businesses, and you can't even have your own business right now. You really want to have your own business right now? You should have been had it 20 years ago. Because at this point, with where how stuff is going, where things are looking, it's not even the people who are, like, even you could probably talk to this 5-10 years ago, quote unquote business being booming to now that you can't even, if there is work, you can't even find the people to want to work, because they're not looking at it like, hey, if I'm working for another individual who's working for themselves, then we're working together, we're building something, right? How do we get the mindsets to the level of philanthropy and seeing this like that? Because we're also talking about the thing of we can tell our people this is free, and it's like they don't want free stuff. They want to pay 10 grand for this. They want to pay 5 grand for this. You know what I mean? And us looking at it from the philanthropy perspective is not going to allow us to succumb to the levels of saying 5 grand for your birthright just because we know we can save 5 grand for it, right? Because people are obviously paying for it. People are obviously buying this, whether it's through some course or whatever. So we just want to put it out. What is it that we can do? Or is there nothing that we can do and we just have to look within and do what we're supposed to be doing for us, for self, for our nation.
Yeah, like you said, just look within maybe, and like how we're doing. Sleep, show the examples. If they see it, they see it. If they don't. Yeah, the example thing. We just continue doing what we're doing as a nation. And, like-minded clients. We just continue doing what we need to do. Continue feeding the hungry.
Doing our part.
Doing our part, right? Continue cleaning up the roads and around the temple. The same thing that the community work. Because they see it, scratching their heads, wondering what we're doing, but they're seeing it, right?
I look at it that people see that what we have and think that maybe because a lot of things are not established or out there like that, or even on the mass media or the news, that people just don't want to be a part of it, or kind of are scared, mostly fearful. Because the people that I talk to, even my own brethren, I would say, that I talk to, like on a regular basis, they wouldn't be one or even open to even speak about the knowledge until like a couple of days ago, their P4 blew up. So when I went there, it's like they had nothing else to do. They started talking for like over an hour.
Their what blew up?
They blew up.
What? Their what blew up?
Their PlayStation.
Oh.
Oh, so P4 blew up. So now they don't got their crack now, right? So now we're talking over. Now you're saying they're unplugged.
Yeah.
They're unplugged.
Messed up now, right? Now they got some time on their hand. Maybe that's what we need to do. Get a virus or something to blow up all the P4s. Hey, bro, have them all back in here.
From when that happened, I'm talking to them. Most of them, what they say is either they're fearful of certain things, and either that or they just unaware and don't know the definitions. I think English is the main problem too. Just speaking, because they won't know the terminology or whatnot. Certain things. I was showing them. I went on etymology.com and then just search the word black. It's so simple. And once you scroll down with the adjective, you read that. Scroll down, read the noun, then it's talks about black more, you click that. Then you see more, you click that. And you just follow the rabbit hole. Yeah.
I see the blacks were getting hype as he brought that up. The blacks were getting hype. Somebody put out a clip of a Cosby show back.
This is online now?
Yeah. Somebody put up a clip of a Cosby show, what do you call it? Behind the scenes, whatever.
Yeah.
So they were sitting at a chessboard with all the pieces on there, and the cameraman or whoever said, "Oh yeah, take all the black things off the board for some shot or something." And because like, take all the black ones off the board, and then he moved all the white ones.
Okay.
And then everybody was laughing at it, like, oh yeah, he's for the black people and all this stuff or whatever like that. But he removed the black ones. Yeah. And the Negroes were happy, like, look, he's for our people and all that. He's not going for the racism stuff. Anything else with regard to the idea of our philanthropy and getting people to that mindset?
Yeah, ultimately, it's all within. Everybody's gonna get it when you get it. It's all within. Just keeping our integrity and just doing what we're doing. That's all I can say. This is not, and ultimately my thought is too, is like, it's not even about pleasing, like trying to show or, what can we do, like you said, what can we do to convince them to get in? It's not about convincing them, because this is what it is. It's just, like I said earlier, just leading by example, just doing what we gotta do, the like minds that we have, and everything will just fall in place.
What does the falling in place look like to you? Like things falling in place for us, because we were talking about on the way up here. We were talking about okay, let's say the stuff's handed to us, right? Everybody, they give up the keys. Okay, here, Mars. Here's the stuff. Right? Are we at the position to hold the thing right now? Are we going to really be able to put everything in place, or is it going to be them still doing some things and then certain things we start handling or whatever?
I think there's always going to be duality. All of it's going to go back to. In the Asiatic, like the prophet said, when the wheels of the industry stop turning, which it has, will be in our favor once it starts turning again.
I don't think the industry has stopped turning yet. Maybe you could call.
Well, I mean, yeah, all this businesses are closing down. Have been open for many, many years. Yeah, that's all I look at. The industry something. And their little fun and games that they have in the sense of the de facto getting all the perks and benefits from having those big businesses that can't sustain anymore. They can't get the grants or loans anymore because they're closing down because they're not making as much money.
I would still say you haven't really answered the question. But on a certain level, if the keys were handed over tomorrow, would we be able to run it? Like as I said, how would government run it?
Well, is that like on a global thing, or is that like
I'm
Canaanland?
talking about well, even
Keep it simple. There just seems
I would keep it whatever. I would say keep it national with respect to if they hand it over the national keys. Now what? Do you become president tomorrow? What are the laws? What are the what about people navigating on the roads? Can people park anywhere they want? What about paying for things? What about the money? Do all those things remain the same?
Well, even if that was to happen, if you were to get handed us tomorrow, the so-called Negro black colored people are still going to be in the same mindset. So there's that too. We have to be dealing with that. So.
Well, I mean, on a certain level, you could almost say the sheep don't count. I'm just saying, how does it look from an administrative point of view in the temple, or not in the temple, in this nation being taken over? What happens? And I just feel like, I mean, the analogy could be, I'm giving you a car tomorrow. It's yours. If you had or I'm giving you a plane tomorrow. I'm giving you a plane tomorrow. It's yours tomorrow. You go fly somewhere. You can't fly that, right?
I can fly.
No, what I would do is get a Moor that knows how to fly the plane.
Or that.
Right?
Actually, I'm one of them. I never flew in a plane real like those. Hey, a lot of places in there.
Julio, where's Joe, man? Hold on, bro. Hold on. This button seems to work.
So-
There we go. The engines are starting. Hold on.
No, because he brought up.
Explain this to you. You don't take off a landing on the most difficult parts, right? So you might be able to get that thing up down the runway.
Because you brought up the car and then you switched to plane, right? And then
I
brought up the car and then you switched to plane.
The reason why I did that is because I referenced the point that I knew that you knew how to navigate. I'm talking about any object, anything that you don't know how to do.
Yeah.
If you're given it tomorrow, navigate a submarine. I'm not saying, or I couldn't say navigate a motorbike because I know you know how to navigate.
Right.
I'm using the example of something that you have.
Something extreme, yeah.
How are you if it's being given to you tomorrow? And that's what I've been looking at before in the past about sort of creating the game plan. That's like studying research.
Yeah.
Fair enough. But I'm saying that part of anything that we're doing right now should be inclusive of
when we get the keys?
I
What
think-
are we gonna be doing?
Because I think too, this just came to me now, that I think that that's all part of it. Because, that's all part of it, because once we start to actually visualize what it's gonna look like, it's going to happen. Anyways, or at least it's one iteration or one version of things,
Yeah.
at the very least, to say what it is.
Even when we went to this, I forgot his name, Dr.
Daweed.
Yeah, when he spoke to him, he said like the same thing, just pretend as if you already had everything, right? Even though that's just pretending, but you're manifesting at the same time. But I say, from our perspective, that even when we have our town halls, the administration that we have now, just knowing what other positions are there, how to get them filled, will obviously be the actual human beings numbers in here, not just like 7 people.
Yeah.
So there's that factor too, right?
Mm-hmm.
I agree, but as I said, that's why I mean, even the philanthropic side of it, from my perspective, philanthropy comes from a position where, well, philanthropy can also be just your time and energy, which is probably what a lot of us have, versus like gifting them the 50 acres that you have, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Out of 600, you're gonna gift 50, or you're gonna give them the, the museum that used to be your home.
Even in reading the prophet says we need finance, we need it back, right? So if you were to get a certain amount of finance, what would be the first thing you should do with that finance?
Right. And that's where,
the thing we should probably-
yeah, and that's where it comes into with things like you're saying with the town hall, and this is where these decisions about things would be made at, because the people recognize that it's a government that's running. They're it. And putting themselves in the positions that are going to be beneficial to this this thing being what it's supposed to be. But like you're saying, and going back to the thing again, how do we get people to that place? Because what we have as a body is not ultimately going to do it. There needs to be more. There needs to be addition to what we have already. Yeah, like one of the things somebody said in the chat, someone said, like, for example, he's more Islam. I guess I'm the only one that didn't get the memo. Yeah.
It's all right, Moore.
So I'm learning slowly. Someone was saying classes on understanding nationality purposes to man and humanity. So those are things that are like secondary things, and those are things that are for the young and unborn. The people who got El Beide Al Ali, they're supposed to be already on it already. It's not supposed to be classes still, like we say with how we look at certain platforms have Taj on there, and then he's talking about the same stuff from driver's license fraud videos or whatever. That we know this already. So is the lessons is the activity at a certain point. At a certain point, the class is feed the hungry. At a certain point, the class is community cleanup. At a certain point, the class is, events that the nation is having, not the sitting in here. You know what I mean? This is really the town hall. This is really where we sit and or figure out what it is that we're going to do.
These are supposed to be meetings.
Yeah.
The problem is that most people for the most part are coming at this from a certain angle coming out of something, more than likely coming into this because it's seen as some kind of a different way of dealing with things that we're dealing with, which happen to be all reflective of the very issue that's at hand, which is that an occupied set of people that are being violated. And then what I found is that because the same things that have been offered to them through the straw thing, which is here, pay this little money, you get your license, pay this, you do this, because this is really hard work. For the most part, I think it causes a lot of people to lose interest fairly quickly on certain levels.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's something that's just beginning.
So is there a way to capture or encapsulate that interest?
Well, I mean, that's what I'm
Like
saying.
what?
You see people and then they go to certain people, hey, $3,000, so you got some charges. People are coming up with that finance.
Yo, like tomorrow.
Like tomorrow. Well, my cousin's here on a work farm and whatever, you got 15 grand tomorrow to save their thing. Problem is that we're not doing that. But because also that's not what's being offered at all, even what he's saying, it's just the illusion of that. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think that's a much more systemic issue. It's almost like they got to be being given something. That's what it feels like on certain levels.
But they're not. But if they're paying for it, is it given to them?
No.
Like if they're
No. I'm saying on the one level, what I was talking to someone about, I think it was Raquel yesterday, right? The aspect of value. If I say to you here is the ticket that's going to give you everything. Here, you just got to come and sit in these classes. You're going to get half of those people won't even show up for all the classes. But if I say to you here, $4,000 and you get the ticket, all of a sudden in your mind, hey, $4,000.
That gives it the value. You mean?
That's what gives it the value.
Yeah.
It's the $4,000.
Yeah.
But the mindset's all messed up, so it wouldn't even matter.
Yeah, I think Rennie has a point in the sense that like people do if people are in something, why would we want them in here? Like if you got yourself into something, we're more scientists, we know that you have to deal with that karma. You know what I mean? Like coming to the temple is not dealing with your karma from when you did Negro shit.
Yeah.
Like finding the money to go pay for a lawyer and then pay for a good one, and hopefully, you don't have to do too much time or whatever. That's the real payment for Negro activity.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
The payment for Negro activity isn't,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? I'll come to the temple and get saved.
Yeah.
So, like the fact that we even like bring this up, like to me, it's like, yeah, those people come around, they come around, but they shouldn't, for their own sake, even be around because that's not necessarily going to help their karma. They're just going to get caught up thinking in a false concept that this is going to help them and that's going to create more issues. Those aren't the people. Like when Joe Ali was here, he had people who were highly educated. Like those, it's not to say that that's what we have to look for, but there's it's called the working class. You know what I mean? Law-abiding people.
Yeah.
So it's all that's most of society.
Yeah.
So it's not, you know what I mean? This concept of when you're in something, even like traffic tickets and stuff. It's that's small stuff that if that's all a person has and that's what's attracting them, you got to figure it out. Like at the end of the day, more times is that even worth it? Yeah. Even after all these years, knowing what you know, if I got $30 right now, today, based on my work schedule and what I gotta do, I may not bother with that.
Yeah.
Going in and for $30.
For $30. Yeah.
So
It's interesting.
You know what I mean?
Sorry to cut you. It's just camel back very quickly. Interesting you say that because I'm dealing with some stuff right now that's around the $300 level, and just even the energy around that to me is that's a lesson I gotta learn right now.
Yeah.
And keep it rolling.
Yeah,
You're saying keep it like don't
Like you
I
pay.
battled down a $30 ticket one of these times. It took me 4 times to get there. I got reduced to 10.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And then they canceled it. At the end of the day, I walked out with nothing, but I didn't win nothing.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
yeah.
What I did, where I think, and hold your thought to what I did win, which I think is what you're really speaking of, is the essence of what
The real
what
essence.
nationality
Yeah.
really means.
Yeah.
And I think that what you're speaking to is you're almost giving people the credit that they already know about their Moorishness. And then they're coming from that angle. I think the problem is most of them don't really know that they're Moors, and then ergo are still caught up with somehow. Oh, does this mean that if I say I'm a Moor, I can get off on this? You see what I'm saying? I think there's a difference there that I think is where the real issue is.
Yeah, and that's I agree. I agree with that definitely.
But yeah, so like you're saying, if you had a $30 ticket, what were you saying? Would you really? You were saying what you really?
Well,
Yeah,
like you
depending
said,
on your
after-
time, yeah.
What's it worth for your time?
Yeah.
Right.
They brought you back how many 3 times?
Yeah, yeah.
Like that, it's $40 divided by 3 is $10.
Yeah.
All right, sorry. Since
But-
were you gonna say something?
No, I have another point, but if you want to,
No, go ahead. Say your point. Because
well, like a different.
Okay, well, yeah, I had this thing I was going to ask you because, Kuja, you remember we were having a discussion with that other Moor yesterday. I want to
Yeah.
bring it up to Tez, but why don't you go ahead because I'll hold my thought and then I'll.
Okay, well, this is something else. It's just that the concept too is that when, to me, like the temple, it clearly says, this. Joel said that this is the sole foundation for all Asiatics to depend upon for their earthly salvation as American citizens, right? When he says all Asiatics, who does he talk? Who does he mean?
That's a great question.
Right, because it also says that in the time of the prophet there was Turks and Japanese and these different people in the temple.
Yeah.
Why? Because the temple is the Moorish Science Temple of America.
Yeah.
Right? What is it for? It's a civic organization to teach civics.
Yeah.
So if those people are civilized, then or they want to be civilized or they want to learn about civics, that's the place for them to go.
Yeah.
It's not the place for like people to help out these people who think they're black people.
Yeah.
It's the place to learn civics.
Yeah.
Part of civics is nationality. Part of civics is, rights
Right.
and jurisprudence. So these people need it maybe more than other people, right? And since it's established in America, they don't have to travel to some other place to learn it. It's in their homeland. But it's for all Asiatics. Like it's for all Asiatics. Because everything they're doing, they're smartest, they're best people back home, even though they know real civics, they may not have the courage or while our ancestors are actually doing stuff, whether it be because they were passing and the society thought they were a Caucasian or because whatever they were doing, they were able to maintain the thing in North America. So we think we're behind, but really, what did they end up doing? They ended up following into the whole Banking Act, and now all their countries are corporations. Right in the 50s and 60s, they thought they got their independence. What they got was just slavery to the international banking system.
Mm-hmm.
So what do they know? They don't really know. Like the way Drew Ali brought it and Oscar the Priest and all these people, and the way they knew what the real was, but they also realized they had to deal with the de facto, corporate de facto.
Yeah.
They had both in their mind. They operated on both realms. That's why us today, Moors all struggle because we weren't raised that way. We were raised just thinking one way, and now and then you open up to something else, and you have to try and make that balance between the two. Whereas they were raised in the time where things were being switched over, so they already knew like a sheriff's the sheriff because they grew up with the sheriff and deputies, and then they brought in stuff right around that same the 1920s. So it's like they didn't have to really learn it like that. You know what I mean? They learned it because it was immediate, it was new, it was fresh.
Yeah.
What do you mean? A police, division. What do you mean? Like, what is that? Oh, well, it's this thing they're gonna do. Oh, you're cutting the highwaymen in. Oh, okay, yeah. You see what you do. You see what you do. So that's why now it's not up to the Asians to teach us, the Europeans to teach us, and the Africans to teach us. It's up to us to teach them.
Yeah.
And nobody's gonna know it. You're not gonna go there and have people know it to the degree that we know it. Nobody is. The elites, yeah, the people who run stuff, yeah, but not like the average person's not gonna know.
Mm.
I'm not talking about Moorish history. Yeah, they know you're a Moor. Everybody knows we're Moors. But civics, no. You pull that anywhere is a colonial education system. It's not going to be. It only took a few generations and they messed all those people.
Right. Yeah.
Why they would even in the 2000s have protests asking for democracy, bring democracy to our country. Arab Spring and all that stuff.
Yeah. That's phenomenal. You said you had something, Omar?
I was just speaking to the Moor yesterday in regards to the desire for certain Moors to, certain reference points were that, it was told to some of these Moors in the literature that the Prophet had factories and things back in the day. One of the thoughts, I wanted to put this forth to you, Tez, on a certain level. When he had said that, I was of the understanding that the reference point to that was that individuals within the nation, Moors, were active and had then had temples and other kind of businesses that were under the let's say under the purview of the Moorish nation. But these weren't the Prophet's buildings. These were buildings that he had access to, because one of these Moors, one of his feelings is that as the nation, for example, here's an example. He wants to be the minister of law, let's say, as an example, so that really we should have law offices, right? The Moors should have law offices there, and that he would then be able to then go practice
Or civic offices or whatever. Let's say
over there, and he'd be out there to practice civics, and that then this is why I'm sort of trying to try and impart this sort of situation to you. But the feeling is that somehow the nation has these things to empower individuals in doing. As I said, he wants to be the minister of civics. So then really we should be facilitating a building for him to be able to do civics. And one of the thoughts that I had was that the Prophet really didn't have anything like that. What he was just our spiritual and, let's say, a literal figurehead. So he had, let's say, ultimate control of these buildings from a nationalistic perspective, but it wasn't his that he had to give to people. Is that what you have taken from the readings?
Yeah.
Like, the industry that he's talking about, whatever it is.
Industry. I mean, at the end of the day,
it wasn't his industry. It wasn't an industry that the Moors were doing. That as the leadership of those Moors, he was.
Yeah, he had access to.
He was commander of that.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. No, because this is what I was trying to explain to the Moor, that Moors want to come in here and say, okay, I want to be the minister of justice. Well, you have to go out there and do justice.
Yeah.
You have to then go and get that office building, and then give.
Or be already established as a justice, whatever.
Well, or someone who's
and you're bringing that in,
meting up justice.
Yeah.
And see, that's the thing too. Is like exactly that's a very good point. I agree totally. Actually, is that back in the day, the concept would have been there's this businessman and he had this, and part of his business came under the temple, or there's this this business person and they have some assets.
Right.
And those assets would be under the nation, whatever.
Yeah.
But it's not really. It can't be the other way around. It's not the temple. The concept is it's the jurisdiction.
Right.
The jurisdiction that it's in is free.
Right.
And so, like if something establishes something for you freely, how can it now keep owing you something? It just gave you freedom, basically.
Yeah.
you owe it like everything. The debt is unpayable. So
Absolutely.
like, yeah, that's a strange concept that people would have that. You know,
No,
but you're right. People do unfortunately don't really get it, and they don't. The other half is that when they look now and say, well, if that's the nation, how come like other countries have welfare and this and so on and so on and so forth? But the reality is that even on that side, in terms of government programs, etc., and what the government wants to do, that's just a matter of accounting. At the end of the day, so what kind of accounting do you want to do? Well, it just depends on how you want to form up your government. You know what I mean? And that's the concept, is that, minister of this and that only comes after there's
things to
ministries.
Absolutely.
And the ministries only come if there's a full Congress or Parliament.
Yeah.
If there's not even a full Congress, then
And then
there's no cabinet.
well, and then the other part, which is what we speak of, is then that you have to have like, what do you call it, estates, corporal and incorporal, right? You have to actually have land to do a lot of this stuff, right?
Mhm.
At least that's what I think it kind of feeds off of, is the fact that exactly what you're saying, it's all accounting. Okay, we're gonna give some people welfare. Where does that welfare come? That comes from the welfare of all the other people putting their finance in.
Yeah.
To the comptroller, and it says, okay, we've skimmed off the cream, and now we're giving it to some of the people that don't have any cream.
Yo, why is there Sobeys bags everywhere? What is going on? The lady outside just came, passed with a Sobeys bag. I'm looking right here. I've seen so. I'm like, yo, what is this?
Take all our
Yeah.
Let's walk fast.
No, because I was just thinking about it. I was just like, oh damn, they got the same bag or whatever. And then the lady passed by with the same bag. I'm like, yo, what is going on right
special on Sobeys.
now?
That you missed it.
I definitely missed it. Yeah.
I just, you and I, and you tell about as well, we realized we reached ahead as to, we've reached, I think, the zenith of the things that we can do for the people. The rest now is for the people to do.
It was like with over there. When we reached capacity, busting at the seams, like we had to freaking be able to stretch.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it seems like it's at that place with this, that there's not really any more people out there to get like that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's who we have right now till that next place where, you know what I mean, the influx of another 5 or 6 coming that are where we're at with this. You know what I mean? We reached some type of critical mass.
And even like I was reading something, I don't remember what it said, but there's probably like over 1 million card holding Moors out there in the Americas.
Yeah. Like just Moors, who have cards from wherever, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
They just have a nationality card, says they're Moor. Yeah.
And that's the mindset.
Are they able to see each other the same? As soon as they start pulling all them cards out. No, he's not part of our nation and all that. You know. Yeah,
I think we need to do more active stuff with other temples outside there.
Yeah.
Like in the United States, so-called United States or whatever. That's what I think too, because there's a lot of stuff, even this Googling stuff. I know there's a lot of more stuff in Baltimore. I don't know the whole history behind that or whatever.
Yeah.
It's like in Chicago, there's more in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
All over.
But
Haven't most of those temples become somewhat corrupted?
Well, yeah, that's what I'm saying. To know, differentiate, and know the clean from the dirty ones, right?
I mean, like in specific territories.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, here, this morning I was doing that. I was just Googling Moorish, like on Google Maps, and just seeing what's Moorish on the Americas. Baltimore has a lot of Moorish stuff. There's even some Moorish, it says Moorish tags and titles. That's them giving their tag, right, and stuff. So that would be, it says here is tag agency. That's what it says according to Google. So there's stuff out there that are more organized and stuff. But who knows how much people they have, right? Or if that's even 100%.
Yeah. Until there's actual connection with them, You don't know. Like there's a Moor in here that said he's in the Ohio temple. You know? And then there's Moors who there's probably not even a temple where they're at. You know, but they have something else going on that they do that's Moorish. You know, like even that whole thing with land and getting land or whatever. Like you have to have committed people, because you're not just going and getting it like that. You're gonna have to do some type of, I mean, depending on the jurisdiction you're in, maybe, but you're gonna have to do some type of corporate interaction in order to get it. It's not gonna be a, you know, stick your sign in the ground and then that's it. You know, whether it's going through the county to find out what's available before you stake your claim, and where is that happening? Because if it's, you know, if we use the example of, well, if we have, you know, 80 people at Drew Ali Day, and then temple meetings, we don't have 80 people. We're definitely not gonna have 80 people 4 hours out with some land somewhere that we got, you know, for a good price or whatever. You know, because the stuff that's in town they can't get to. So 4 hours away, they're definitely not going to get to that. Even if we can get the land for $1 and 500 acres, you know, for 50 cents, you know, there has to be, you know, the like Omar talks about the ditch digging. There has to be the grab the shovel and dig your ditch, people. You know what I mean? And that has to be everybody. Everybody has to be game to be digging some ditches, so that the work could get done. You know, the you know, it's like the people are there, but they have to have the drive and the incentive and the confidence in what it is this is about for themselves, not because, you know, someone got the building or someone did the floor or someone painted the walls or whatever like that. Whether you painted it or not, it's yours. Whether you put finance in or not, it's yours. So at least be involved with it in some type of way, since it's yours anyways, you know what I mean, regardless, you know. And again, it goes back to the thing with how people are looking at it, just like with Moors who are dedicated to this. Like Drew Ali said, hey, you know, for the faithful Moors, for the few faithful Moors back then. And he had, you know what I mean, 2,500 people in his temple, and he's talking about few faithful, even though temple was full of people, you know. So there's a level where your mindset has to be with this, you know, and it's a task to get people on that level, you know, but more so because they have to be the ones to put themselves there, you know. And of course, there's always circumstances and issues and whatever why we can't do whatever it is that, you know what I mean, we should be doing. You know, but we should be going over and beyond for our nation, because everybody else goes over and beyond for theirs. Everyone else goes, you know, 500 miles an hour for their nation. They might push the brakes for everybody else's stuff, but for their thing, they're going in hard. You know, and we have to find that somewhere. The ones who are involved but not involved. Because when we have Drew Ali Day and there's 80 people there, And we're saying from day one there was 80 people there, and it didn't go into 80, and then the next year 160, and then the next year and it keeps rising to the point where we can't even get the places that we need to get. We need to get Massey Hall or something for Juali Day. We need to get freaking where they have the car show and all that. We need to get that for Juali Day. You know what I'm saying? And then on top of that, then you have people coming in from other places too. On top of that, we need the Sky Dome for Juali Day. That's.
I think the problem is that the perceived benefits really are only attracting
The sincere.
well, the most sincere and in some ways the most desperate, right? On a certain level, because the ones that have, they go that corporate route,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Whatever their beliefs are, they're not. Whatever their beliefs aren't or are, they're not at that level of fruition of saying this is about my nation and about bettering it. So usually, I guess the most sincere don't seem to have their. We was talking to someone else about this a couple of days ago about how serving man and money,
Mm-hmm.
they make you God and money, they make you feel. The doctrine is you can't serve two gods, right? So you either have to be serving the God who's not about money, because that's who you have to be serving. You can't serve the money God, but yet all of us are in somehow beholden to this money God, right? But for you to be wanting money like that is wrong. So then your mindset is wrong, right? Because then you don't look at this as if this is something that you should be entitled to have a mansion and a cottage. And to remember, I think it was when we were talking about the going wage.
Yeah.
They were talking about the going wage now. It's
Yeah.
going to $15, but they did
the living wage is
the living wage that you need to survive in Toronto to have and they had certain, what do you call it, indices, which would be a couple week vacation. Just as an example, let's say a car. And
well, it was the vacation that was on the list. The vacation was a bona fide, that's on there.
Yeah, it's
You
like
have to have a vacation.
You're supposed to be able to have like a house and a car. Let's say they say that amount of money, not a house and a car. Sorry, it wouldn't have been a house. It would have been, as I said, a vacation. And I can't remember what the other one is. But the thing that stuck out to me was they actually factored in this vacation time. I talked to most more. That's what I'm talking about here. Well, we can't even get away for a couple of days. You know what I mean? We don't have no. How it should be is you should be having like a 2-3 week vacation every year. Mm-hmm. They said that was $22 an hour in the periphery of Toronto, that being outside of Toronto. In Toronto, it was $24 to $25 an hour. This is what you have to be making to be living in the city and to be able to take a 3-week vacation, as an example. So you think about that, right? Now, then they have CEOs that in 1 week make what you make in a year.
Yeah.
Actually, I think they have CEOs that in a day make what you make in a year.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. In a day, they make what you make in a year.
Mm-hmm.
And then they've got us as more saying, we can't, it's not about the money. It's just about, the love and the whatever, right?
Yeah.
And then the prophet will tell you a beggar nation can never attain its highest level of spirituality. So, I get caught up in it, but that's what I was saying to Cujo today about the whole thing about sporting in the manifested hidden destinies. That's what I was saying. That's where I've evolved to now. If I have to use my straw to be able to help us get ahead, that's where I see the straw.
Yeah.
Giving up that straw right now, and that means I can't rent a building or whatever it is right now. I don't know. I sort of feel like you're kind of caught. Right? Because they're not honoring you. Sign a contract. I'm not signing with a free national. Because obviously they don't have the same ways to, let's say, control you. But I don't know. I just feel like we're kind of caught because if you're going to go this nationalistic route, that's going to be the road less traveled.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's one issue. But I also think the perspective too that ultimately sort of deals with all that is that every nation has an economy that's
Mm.
built up of industries, right? And like whatever industries that nation is involved in. And if they focus on that, then they can develop them. Like that's basically where the power comes from. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
it's all at one point why Cuba was the richest country. At one point why Haiti was the richest
Yeah.
country.
And you're talking about, as an example, they've got bauxite. Or they've got Trinidad and Tobago used to be huge. They had oil.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but still,
Huh?
right?
Yeah.
So, and that's the concept is
You're saying there's a national.
there's a perspective of industry too.
Yeah,
right?
there's a sort of nationalistic kind of what do you call it, pot there or something, right? Not a pot, but an industry. What you're saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. And that's and the industries they work with each other, right? And that's how they're able to support each other.
Yeah.
Right? Like different industries work with different other industries.
Yeah.
Well, for example, you'd have oil. You need those things, oil refineries to be filled. The people in the nation would be doing that work.
Yeah.
So you'd be taking your stuff. Like this is what Sheldon said. Oh, I'm not selling it to the Moors or everyone says, but at the end of the day, the other people are buying them. They take that oil, you sell that out there. That finance comes back to
Goes back to the
feed your
nation. Yeah.
people.
Yeah.
And then those people put that money in the bank, which is your bank.
Which is your bank.
Which then goes to.
Yeah.
No, I agree with you. It's as I said, it's just.
And the key in the immediate term is like it's not really about the industries that you're thinking out there per se. It's more about like what do people already do and can do and like
Right.
and a lot of the soft stuff is really very accessible right now. Like anything having to do with software, anything conceptual, intellectual property, literature, printing, like all that stuff.
It feels like that's all that's left right now. Kind of
Yeah,
thing.
pretty much.
Yeah, but also if it's ironic too, because remember the prophet says like one day you're gonna need your own press,
Press
you're
and
gonna
all
need
that.
to tell your own story. So the concept too is like
Yeah.
it's all forms of media in my mind that are kind of pressing right now.
Yeah.
And then with media, it's not really like it's disconnected from other industries. Media on that, you were like you're talking everything, construction,
It covers everything. Absolutely.
fashion,
Absolutely everything.
Mhm.
Absolutely everything. It's almost-
some like, and that's what I said before. Some industries are connected to certain other industries, and depending on which nation, but there's certain industries that are just very connected. Right? Media is connected with everything.
Well, yeah, it is because it's been that thing that, like you say, the prophet was talking about, that then in my mind became perverted out of media, let's say journalism, came media, let's say entertainment, right? So you've now got a place like Hollywood, which is now, the industry is movie making, which is really storytelling.
Yeah.
That's an international kind of industry,
Right.
in a sense. It has become one.
Yeah.
And then through that comes control of or indoctrination, vis-a-vis a kind of a bias in how they tell their stories or do their things, right?
Mm.
Or at least a slanting.
And that's the thing is that once you've made your statement out there on your own jurisdiction, then that's it. That's the law, right? And the same thing goes with anything that goes online.
Yeah.
So there's no battle there. Like nobody can argue that. It's not like you go to some office and you go to a clerk at a desk and the clerk tells you, we don't accept these applications between this time and this day. You gotta come back this day.
Mhm.
Oh, and you gotta bring this piece of ID when you do it. Oh, and you gotta do this, and and it's the whole thing of knowing that common law concept that like if we authorize each other, if we witness each other, then it's law.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? It's like
Mhm.
it's like our charter isn't just something that we wrote, right?
It's a living
in Chicago, right?
Yeah.
The charter. When you send out your writ, you're not just sending out your writ. You go to the temple and there's two other human beings that say, no, this is factual, this is legit.
Yeah.
And that's what makes it lawful.
Yeah.
So now where it has to be accepted unless it's argued. If it's not argued, there's already witnesses on it, so it's
Yeah.
already, it's authorized.
And the witnesses are free nationals, so it even gives it more authenticity based on who the witnesses are.
Yeah.
Islam. Anybody have any questions? All this madness with these people out here on the road acting crazy. Get closed out early today, so we get on the road.
So, the winter solstice, is going to be a walk this year. The details and the place will be posted later. It will be on the 18th, is that right?
No, 19th of December.
19th of December.
Yeah, 19th.
And just keeping everyone, whoever's there is listening, that usually come the wintertime, these sort of, our sort of outside events sort of die down a bit. You know, we try to keep a lot of us Moors are from the southern islands and stuff like that, and cold.
We're not fond of
Not fond of the cold. And stuff
We hope
like
we
that.
don't have to make the trek in the wintertime. Please be in the summer. Please. System, please fall in the summer. Islam wars. Of course, Noble Juali Day, January 8th, 2022. We're gonna have a lotto for the temple for about 15 members. So be on the lookout for the email announcing that. And we're gonna have 4 presenters this year, just like we did last year. It's gonna be online. So we'll send the information out as we get closer with how to send the finance and get on the list for the 12th annual Noble Juali Day. And we're also going to be doing our Noble Juali Day awards as well. Islam wars. Give thanks to those who took the time today to battle the elements to be here. Honors. It was crazy. It was crazy out there. First one. It didn't start yet. Cloud on the left, 2 on the right. Allah, Father of the universe.
Allah, Father of the universe.
Father of love.
Father of love.
Truth. Peace.
Peace.
Freedom.
Freedom.
And justice.
And justice.
Allah is my protector.
Allah is my protector.
My guide.
My guide.
And my salvation.
And my salvation.
By night.
By night.
And by day.
And by day.
His holy prophet.
His holy prophet.
Noble Juali.
Juali.
Islam.
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 I think it's like, I think I have, and I can just, because what's weird is I have that stuff. So this is the
Yeah,
one
man.
that I do things
Shut down this thing. Islam wars.
So what was interesting, I have YouTube.